Yeah.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Here I am again with another review coming out of the Toronto International Film Festival, and that of course is The Room Next Door, written and directed by Spanish auteur Pedro Almodóvar, starring Tilda Swinton, Julianne Moore, John Turturro, and Alessandro Nivola. And this ended up winning the Golden Lion at Venice against all expectations. Like, I still don't know how this beat The Brutalist, to be honest. And there was a lot of hype going into this one because this is Pedro Almodóvar's first English language feature. Obviously, all his other movies have been in Spanish, and all of them that I've seen I have really enjoyed, whether it be All About My Mother, Pain and Glory, Parallel Mothers, and probably my favorite of his films that I've seen, Talk to Her, which saw him nominated for Best Director, and he won the Best Original Screenplay Oscar for that film that year. And he's someone that I really greatly admire, but still, you know, I do want to check out more of his work. And being his first English language movie, there was a lot riding on this. I mean, the two leads are two of the best actresses, not just of their generation, but of all time. And so there were a lot of prospects going into this. And then I saw the first clip of this, and it reminded me of a certain movie. Let's say you take off the last two words of this title, and that's what I was feeling. And I hate to admit that my suspicions were confirmed when I saw this movie, because there are literally lines in this that feel like they were written by Tommy Wiseau. I am not even joking. The dialogue in here is pretty piss poor for a good majority of this film, and I think that's because perhaps Pedro didn't have an English script supervisor to kind of, you know, make the words flow a bit more naturally in English language. But my goodness, I mean, the beginning of this film I really thought was pretty bad. There was literally one scene that was a flashback, which not only had some horrible dialogue, but literally a line ripped straight from The Room. I am not kidding. So when I draw these comparisons, they are very apt, let me tell you. But I do think that what this film has that a Tommy Wiseau film doesn't have is obviously great direction by Almodóvar, a wonderful color palette as we've been accustomed to, you know, the very lush reds and greens, you know, they're all present throughout this movie. Terrific performances across the board, or at least, you know, some very good acting with what was given to them, and a script that actually has some sort of cohesion to it, and a tight narrative at that. So I think this is one of those movies, as it went along, I really began to appreciate it a lot more. And I think by the time you get to the ending of this film, I was really blown away. I thought it was quite miraculous, beautiful, beautiful way to end this film. But let's talk about the meat and potatoes of the story, because this follows two women, Martha played by Tilda Swinton and Ingrid played by Julianne Moore. They're long-lost friends. Ingrid finds Martha in a hospital with stage 3 cancer, and basically Martha offers Ingrid to have her accompany her as she lives out the last few days of her life before she takes a euthanasia pill to finally end it all. And I really do think that the most interesting part about this movie, of course, is, you know, the leads. Tilda Swinton, I think, is easily the standout of this, but I think Julianne Moore has a lot of great moments. Of course, I think the dialogue really holds them back from what they could have accomplished fully, but I still think they are very, very great in this, considering everything going on, and I really do think their chemistry is quite immaculate. I think especially what this film has to say about euthanasia is really, really interesting, and really leaves you with something to chew on and think about, because it's obviously a very controversial topic throughout, you know, the world, because it's legalized in very few places, but obviously most countries and abiding governments are opposed to it. But it really does make you question, is it easier just to get it over with and more humane than to let someone prolong their life even longer than they need to have it be prolonged for? So I really do think that that is probably the most important thing you can chew on and take away from this film. I also thought John Turturro was pretty great whenever he showed up, though his character kind of goes on a whole rant about global warming, and I don't really know how it ties into the movie overall. But I do think by the end of the movie, everything does have its place and purpose in this narrative. I just think, for me, like, terrible dialogue really takes me out of movies. So I think this really could have been potentially one of his best films had there been a few English rewrites here by someone who could really nail down the specificities of Almodóvar's dialogue in Spanish and translate that over to English for him. But as it is, I still think it's an interesting first, English language debut, but one that's probably just going to be somewhat of a lasting footnote in his long and storied career. I really don't think that this is going to be remembered as one of his best movies. Probably one of his weakest, but still, I think it really found its footing by the end. And I'm going to give The Room Next Door a 6 out of 10, a very light one at that, because there was a lot of this I wasn't really into, but I do appreciate the craft that went into this film and the screenplay and everything in between. It's an Almodóvar film, so at the very least you gotta give it props in the technical department, because you know that it's always going to be top-notch quality from that standpoint. Now, when it comes to the Oscars, I really don't think this is going to get any nominations. Alberto Iglesias could always surprise with a Best Original Score nomination. I thought the score here was quite exquisite, but I don't really see that getting in if none of the acting nominees are getting in. And I really respect that both Tilda Swinton and Julianne Moore are campaigning for lead in this movie, but I really don't think it's going to amount to a nomination for either one of them. So I think that this movie, it was an interesting movie to kind of kick off the festivals this season at Venice, but I really don't think it's going to go far beyond that. Maybe some Golden Globes, but regardless, definitely check it out at the very least when it does come to your area. I believe it's probably going wide in January, so it's going to be a minute until you see it. But if you have seen it, let me know what you think down in the comments below. And of course, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. I am still going to be doing more TIFF reviews, but I wanted to bring you guys a very special 10th anniversary film of one of my favorite films, which is Damien Chazelle's Whiplash. So stay on the lookout for that and so much more, and I'll talk to you guys very, very soon. Peace now.